So our challenge as men is, how do we live in a world where pornography is everywhere, but respect the power of the passions in our life to keep those passions focused in a way that build our life rather than destroy it?
And it's you and me, babe, whatever comes. Knowing bigger hands are holding ours, and the greatest days are ahead of us. Growing in love, learning to be a better us.
Hi there, welcome to A Better Us and to our home.
In today's program, we're talking about a topic that I think most women want someone to talk about, and probably some men would rather avoid.
Yep. Today the guys are in the huddle, as we call it, and we're talking openly about pornography. And helping us navigate this topic is relationship expert Bill Farrel. And we'll discuss why it's such a problem with us guys, what it does to the wiring in our brains, how it affects our marriage, and what we can do about it.
When I hear that guys are going to have an honest conversation about an issue like pornography, it gives me hope, because every marriage has been affected by porn. The images, they are everywhere. But the point is, it's a battle that can be won.
Now that's in the second half of the show, but first we're on the beach with Dr. Mike. He's talking about something we don't always think about. That's taking time to do what he calls experience awe together.
And walking through this various experiences will be our kitchen couples.
CFL football great Mike Pinball Clemens and his wife Diane.
And recording artist Dan McCauley and his wife Danielle.
So why not grab a coffee and stay with us.
One of the most amazing days of my life was the day my first son was born. It was incredible. And I remember walking into the delivery room and having little awareness of what was about to happen. I had no clue. I knew we were about to have our first baby, but I really didn't know what effect that little baby boy would have on me. And I remember I held him in my arms in that recovery room, and I looked directly in his eyes, and something spectacular happened. I suddenly felt something I had never felt in my entire life. It was this deep sense of humility and gratefulness combined with an enormous hope for what my son's future might hold. And to be honest, I was scared to death. I was terrified because I had no idea what to expect or what might happen next. It didn't seem right to me that I had to take a test and study to get a driver's license to drive a car on the road, but they were gonna let me take this little boy out of the hospital and take him home, having talked to no one. No one cleared me, no one gave me a license for this. It was ridiculous. And so the combination of all that humility and gratefulness and hope and even fear is probably best described as the experience of awe. The awe experience, that personal sense of wonder we feel in the presence of something vast that transcends our previous experience and understanding of the world, just totally transcends everything we've ever known before. The experience of awe can come in response to lots of different kinds of activities, and it usually involves things that are vast in physical space, or maybe it's really old. You ever looked at an old building and just kind of been in awe of it? How many of you have looked at a complex thing and said, I don't know how they do that? I look at my phone sometimes and I'm like, how am I FaceTiming with someone across the world? It produces this sense of awe in me. So basically, awe happens when you encounter something so enormous that you don't feel like you can even wrap your mind around it. You can experience awe in response to spiritual experiences, art, music, the feeling of being intensely connected to other people, or even the complexities and joy of holding your newborn little boy in your arms. Now, the research is building and starting to demonstrate the benefits of awe go far beyond the moment. A recent study found that experiencing a sense of awe promotes lots of positive health benefits. It lowers inflammation in your body, it decreases chronic illness, so experiencing a sense of awe actually makes you healthier. It increases your cognitive functioning. I think that's amazing. It actually makes you smarter, more intelligent. It increases a sense of altruism and loving kindness towards others because awe encourages us to abandon self-interest and improve the welfare of everyone around us. When people feel awe, they feel smaller, they feel less self-important, less self-addicted, and simply act kinder towards one another. That's why it's incredibly important that you and your spouse pursue the experience of awe together. This is something that needs to be on the forefront of your mind. How are we going to get in a situation that induces awe together? Let's talk about one of the best ways you can do this as a believing couple, as Christians. Of course, it's prayer. Of course, there is no greater awe than being in the presence of a God that is bigger than we are. I don't want you to get caught in the trap of thinking that just going to church with your spouse actually solves anything. Like if that's the way you're trying to capture awe with your wife or your husband, forget it, because that's not going to work. However, couples that pray together, that have that awe experience before the Lord together, the divorce rate plummets, especially when you pray together every day. So it's clear, right? You need to pursue awe in your relationship. If you want to have a close relationship with your spouse that allows you to surrender yourself and lay yourself down for your spouse, pursue the experience of awe together. Get out in nature together, learn how to paint together, practice an instrument or play an instrument with one another, listen to worship music together, and if you do one thing, pray together.
All right, thanks to Dr. Mike on the beach. Looked like a nice setting there. That was just that setting is kind of awe-inspiring. We've got Mike and Diane, Dan and Danielle here back in the kitchen again. But this whole idea of awe, like I know he mentioned like going to special things like museums. You love museums, you love history, and we kind of experience those things together and walk through and you think, oh, wow. Like we've been to Israel and you see where Jesus walked and you're thinking, oh my goodness. But there's something special about doing that together with your spouse.
And I think the point of awe is, if I'm reading Dr. Mike correctly, is that he's encouraging us to kind of get outside of our narrow focus of us and what's wrong and how can we fix it, but kind of take a step out of that and be together and say, let's exhale and just kind of look around. There's a big picture here that we just need to soak in, and that when we realize that there's something so much bigger than us, that God has things at work so much bigger than what we go through on a day-to-day basis, we can exhale, we can say, okay, you know what, God's got this too. God's got us too. As we just commit our lives to Him, He's going to take care of us too. So experiencing awe is, to me, is kind of taking my eyes off of myself, inward focus, but just kind of opening my eyes to the world around me and say, okay, it's a bigger picture happening here.
We get stuck in a mundane rut, right? We're flicking the channels, we're just doing the routine. Maybe for us, I think we're a musical family, so we've gone to concerts before. We've seen people that we look up to in music, and I can remember one trip we went, and it was a singer I'd wanted to see forever. And when she finally came on stage, there were these big, enormous red velvet curtains that dropped, and she was doing this power ballad, and I just burst out in tears, and we were laughing.
You've got to say who you're talking about.
It was Celine Dion. I love Celine Dion. Good Canadian girl. Anyway, so when I saw that and he was with me, it was such a great moment and a great memory that we look back on now, and he was laughing at me and I was laughing at myself. But I've seen him in lots of moments, musical moments, and even worship services where we are just together, just in awe at what's
praying at the altar together.
Yeah, we've had a lot of those moments, and those are the moments we treasure, not the ones that we're stuck in front of the TV screen, right?
Yeah.
Except for right now, what you're doing is awesome.
That's good.
Good catch.
Good catch.
Yes, we've obviously had the sport experiences, but with our foundation, going to Africa and to Haiti, the birth of our kids, that's over and above anything else. But what I really loved is he spent so much time talking about prayer and what prayer means, and because a lot of times we don't think of awe when we pray,
That's
right?
good.
We can get a little bit stiff and mundane, and praying together as well is one of those things that we have to be careful. We get ourselves on different schedules, but praying together, and the fact that can be awesome, right? And so something we can engage on more regularly.
Yeah. I love the whole praying together thing, because it's something, like anything we're talking about right now, actually takes work. I mean, you've got to plan, you've got to set aside the time, you've got to realize what's important and what really, like with music or with sports or whatever, what would do it for the two of you to have this experience of awe together, that you can enjoy it together. But it takes work, it takes effort and planning. But then to do it, to actually do it, to step outside of your regular, normal routine, and then enjoy the amazingness of whatever it is, it brings your relationship to a different level, because you're no longer just, at the nitty gritty, and you're together like this with the Lord. When you're praying together, it's like you realize, boy, it's the two of us, but it's an amazing God.
Like the God of the universe that cares about us and our marriage, and you bring your needs to Him. And sometimes that's when some of the little annoyances, maybe they fade away a bit, because
Perspective.
Exactly.
Perspective, getting some perspective.
That's a good word, perspective. I think that would be a good application for that.
Perspective on the little things that bug us, the fact that God's put us together, the fact that she's a child of God and He expects me to treat her as such, all of that, everything you're saying about the idea of it being bigger than us.
And when we pursue those awesome things that we do together, it kind of makes those little things that bug us, they become less significant. They do.
Very minute.
Exactly. Well, this is good.
Okay, well, speaking of awe, it's just the guys coming up in the Huddle, our Huddle segment. And you ladies can listen in too. But yeah.
We're going to listen.
It's going to be a good time, so stay with us. The Huddle is coming up.
It's something that you would even become ashamed of, and then you would hide that from your wife, and this is now a secret you're keeping, and you have your open relationship with your wife, and then this on the side. But I think there's two relationships that we can actually be completely open and completely honest with, and that's us and God, and us and our wife.
Well, welcome to the Huddle, where the guys of A Better Us get our heads together and we try to make a plan for moving the ball down the field. And so I'll tell you where we are in a second, but we've got Eric Maines, we've got Dan McCauley, we've got Mike Pinball Clemens, and joining us also is Bill Farrel, relationship expert, author of like some 45 books or something. And so it's great to be together in this huddle. And we're letting the women in on what happens in a huddle when guys get together. So, but we're talking about some important things because we want to all become a better us.
Yes, please.
By the way, we are at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, home of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and also home of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, in which pinball's an inductee, and
but we're trying to become a part of the Husbands Hall of Fame today, though, right? Yes.
Right. Well, so this is a special place to be. Like, we look around the room and there's memorabilia of football all over the walls from many years going back, and so it kind of helps us guys get a little shot of testosterone and everything here. But we've been dealing in these huddle segments, and we're sprinkling them in, throughout episodes of A Better Us, in different topics that we just need to talk about as guys. Yeah. And one of them that's been called every man's battle is this whole pornography issue. And And so, Bill, you're going to help us get things kicked off here to understand why men struggle with this so much, and maybe does it have an effect, if any, on our marriages?
Yeah, it's it's one of those things we have to get comfortable talking about because it's so prevalent in our world today, and it's when we were younger, you had to go looking for pornography. Now all you have to have is a device, and it'll find you. And so we have to be talking about this issue. And I believe pornography, the primary reason why it's an issue for men is because of the power God put in us. Like when God created us as males, he made us as passionate individuals. That's the whole purpose for putting lots of testosterone in our body, is he wants us to be passionate about him, passionate about our wives, passionate about our career, passionate about raising our families, and passionate about making a difference in the world. And all of that passion, if it gets refocused, it can create damage very quickly. Like the picture I like to keep in my mind is I had the opportunity to go over to Germany, and the family we stayed with had a Mini Cooper sitting in the driveway. So at dinner, I looked at the dad and I said, "Hey, you got a Mini Cooper, and the Autobahn is like when are we going out?" And his 18-year-old son said, "I'll take you out." Now I'm thinking, was this wise? And as we're leaving the door, Dad says to his son, "Hey, son, no going over 200 kilometers." Something I never said to my kids. Yeah. So we got on the Autobahn. We're traveling 200 kilometers an hour, and we were passed by 2 Porsches. And as they went blowing by, I went, "Man, I want to be in that car." But then we passed one of the Porsches a little bit later, but it didn't look like a Porsche anymore. It was this flaming heap of metal because the driver lost respect for the power of the vehicle. And see, that's where I think pornography gets us, is God made us passionate, and if we don't respect the power, then we're vulnerable to getting distracted.
Wow.
And because we're visually stimulated, pornography can have a strong impact on us. First of all, it's a quick stress relief, and those of us that get stressed in our life and want to just get away, too many people find that as an easy escape. Second, it's powerfully chemically. Like it will produce chemicals in our brain to cause them to be released that capture our attention quickly. And there's 2 primary chemicals. One is called PEA, that when something is new and it involves our passions, PEA gets released, and it's a narcotic. And it causes you to only see what it is that stimulated you. So early in a marriage, when you say "I do" to your wife, PEA gets released, and you're like, "Look at her, it's amazing." And it lasts about 18 to 24 months, and then it wears off. But there's another chemical called oxytocin that can get stimulated over and over and over again, and it bonds 2 people together in an exclusive relationship. So we can use that for us in our marriages, or pornography has learned how to use it against us. Because when a pornography thing is new, it'll spark PEA, and if it's habitual, it will spark oxytocin. And then there's also the release of dopamine that happens along the way, and it becomes a very pleasurable thing, so it can move into an addiction. It doesn't always start as an addiction, but it can move that way if we're not careful. So our challenge as men is, how do we live in a world where pornography is everywhere, but respect the power of the passions in our life to keep those passions focused in a way that build our life rather than destroy it?
And that addiction can have that destructive nature in our marriages.
Yeah.
Because another byproduct of the oxytocin is that, it'll bond 2 people together. That's the way God created us, and that's the way he wired our minds to respond that way, and you bond closer to the one you're having the sexual experience with. But if it's with an image or a video or something, then you're bonding with that, and the converse effect is that it kind of has you push away from others not part of that. And so you can actually be pushing your spouse away just with what happens in your brain when you're viewing it.
Yeah, because there's a popular notion that pornography can help your marriage by adding spice to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually do that. It actually creates a comparison between what has been rehearsed and edited and made to look perfect with the woman you're actually with. Yeah. And our women feel that comparison. That's why they get so threatened by it. Like you and I, guys, we know we can compartmentalize that part of our life, but for her, it becomes this: do you think she's or those things are prettier than me? Are they more attractive than me? Are they more exciting than me? Right. And once she feels compared, the insecurity level just rises to an unbelievable
And that
level.
grates against her primary need
Yeah.
of would you choose me, and the security and all that we've talked about
secureness,
before. Yeah.
Well, I think it's fitting in being in the Hall of Fame, because when I think of pornography, I think run. You know, because I was never a guy who looked at the magazines, right? But when it came to my house, like it came in the spam thing, right? It was the era where you couldn't avoid it, and it was there, right? But then, so it came up, and boom, right away you get, and then you look a little bit longer. And then you look at it a little longer, and then I'm like, what am I doing, right? And then it's like, run! So for me, the advice, right, is run! Just run. Just
run away.
Yeah, flee from sin, right? Just run.
We're just in front of a football field here, and it's when you think of the field, you play the game, and there's rules, there's boundaries, and you're supposed to play within the field, and God has given us a great field for sexual expression within marriage. Right. And as we stay, within those guidelines, there's reasons why there's boundaries, and that we learn from the Bible. And but you get outside of those boundaries, you're out of bounds, and you're not going to gain any ground. You're going to go, you're going to lose the game. And so we got to realize, how do we keep in there? When I think back for myself, and the statistics will show that 9 out of 10 boys will be exposed before they're 18, and the average age of exposure to pornography is 12 years old. And in my case, I was with a friend in a school buddy of mine. I was over at his house, and we were maybe 11, 12 years old, and his parents were gone, and he said, "I'll be right back." He goes upstairs, and he goes into his dad's nightstand. He had these magazines, and so he brings it down.
Doing you a favor.
Yeah, he said, "Hey, look at this, Ron." And then that was all of a sudden, I'm exposed to this, and I got something that awakens, in you, and you think, "Oh my goodness," and so that kind of started something where it became a battle. I gotta fight against this thing, because it's this battle of the mind, and that. If you keep giving into it, it's a challenge, and then you think, well, I'll get married and everything will be okay, and then that'll go away, and that's a myth, right? Because if you have that kind of struggle, it's going to still be there, into marriage, and then it starts having that negative effect on your marriage. Yeah. And so you got to say, oh God, how can I stay within the boundary lines you've set, and what do I need to do in order to stay there and to win the battle? And so that's been something that I've had to learn through the years.
Right, it's something that you would even become ashamed of, and then you would hide that from your wife, and this is now a secret you're keeping, and you have your open relationship with your wife, and then this on the side. But I think there's two relationships that we can actually be completely open and completely honest with, and that's us and God, and us and our wife. God gave us someone that we can actually be completely open with, and they can help us with our stuff. We can help them with their stuff, and that's an accountability partner. No secrets. And yes, pornography would drive a wedge in that, because it is something you would feel. I'm ashamed that I'm doing this because I've saved sex for my wife, but now visually and mentally by myself, and I'm not telling her about this. I feel like we need to be open and share and even confess with our wives and with God.
And I so appreciate you sharing it, Eric, because I think one of the big keys to this is we need to have courageous conversations with our wives. Yeah. And you mentioned every anniversary you do an evaluation of your marriage. Pam and I do that on our anniversary. We evaluate our sex life. And every year we have the conversation. Okay, so what do you like that we're doing? What do you not like that we're doing? Is there anything you want to add to our sexual interaction? What kind of sex life do we want to have in the next season of our life? And when you have that conversation that's positive, it's not just how do we avoid the bad, but how do we develop a sex life between the two of us that's satisfying to both of us, where we're being honest. Because us guys know we would like a different rhythm. Like the frequency that we would like to see in our sex life, and the frequency our wives would like to see, that there's a different number that comes up. And we need to be talking about that regularly, because they forget. They assume that sex for us is like it is for them, just like we assume that also. So having those conversations is very brave, and it's important. And I want to make sure before we get out of the segment that we say to everybody, you know, if pornography has become at the level of an addiction for you, you can be set free, but you're going to have to get courageous and take steps to get there. You're going to have to get into a group that's going to help you work through it, or you're going to have to get a counselor that's going to walk you through therapy. So freedom is possible, but if it's reached the level of addiction, please don't be ashamed, please don't keep it a secret, and please seek help.
And don't try to do it on your own strength. Right, because and the good thing is that we have God on our side when those of us who've committed our lives to Him. That you know, the Bible talks about this being crucified with Christ. One of my dad's favorite scriptures was this Galatians 2:20. I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live, but it's not me, it's Christ living in me. That's right. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me. That scripture was one that he kind of he would repeat to himself often. And he was a man of integrity. He's the one that I look up to. And one of the things that's been helping me lately is I'm wearing his ring, his wedding ring. Good. He wore for 59 years. Mm-hmm. And when I think of Dad's life and his ring and his life of integrity and my mom, and you know, it just helps to also to keep me on track. But getting that accountability with someone else. There's some great software out there available. Yeah, I was gonna say some websites like covenanteyes.com. We'll have it come up on the screen. And XXXchurch.com. There's some great resources out there for guys if this is a struggle for you. I encourage you to do that. And you know, you can win the battle. You know, with God's help, not on your own strength. He will help you. And so this has been a good huddle, guys. Thanks so much for you being open and honest here and just sharing from your heart. Okay, don't go away.
Hey friends, Ron and Ann here. We're so glad you're with us at A Better Us, and we pray your marriage is blessed as you take this in.
Be sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoy this video.
This has been a good program, from Dr. Mike's challenge to us to plan times with our spouse to experience together,
to our huddle discussion with the guys about the widespread problem of porn.
You know, listening to you and the guys reminded me of the conversation we had with Dr. Mike over dinner. He said that based on his years of counseling couples in the clinical office, the most common and devastating issue leading couples on a path to divorce is pornography. And it's not just a guy's issue. Stats show that 30% of porn users are women.
But as Bill Farrel pointed out, you can be set free as you take steps in that direction by owning up to the problem, talking openly and honestly with your spouse, and getting the outside help that's needed.
You know, you mentioned that there's some really good websites out there, some resources that can help, like covenanteyes.com or XXXchurch.com. But we know that really the first and best step to take is the one toward God.
Yeah. When we come into a relationship with Jesus and ask Him to forgive us and take leadership in our lives, we have access to a source of power that we could never have on our own. One that can help us overcome any challenge and find the freedom we desperately need.
If you're not sure how to take that vital step toward God, or if you feel stuck in the shame of what you're dealing with, we'd love for you to call our prayer line.
Or maybe there's something else you'd like prayer for. The number is toll-free and available 24/7. You'll be glad you made that call.
Thanks again for stopping by. And remember, no matter what you're going through, with God, there is always hope to become a better us.
Hey friends, we really hope you're enjoying the marriage conversations here with A Better Us on our YouTube channel.
We have hundreds of more helpful marriage videos designed to give you hope and tools to make your marriage better.
You can see just a few options we think you might like here and here.
Enjoy! Oh, and make sure you subscribe by clicking here so you don't miss out on all the great marriage help we have coming your way soon.